Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Ed Events Community live stream. I'm David Burke, and welcome to today's workshop with Jolene Lockwood. The topic is how to start a hard conversation, something that we all have to experience at some point in our professional lives. So, Jo, welcome. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, David. It is such a pleasure to be here, presenting a short little synopsis of how we might be able to think about starting those hard conversations. So it's good to be here.
It's great to have you. And for those of you out there watching along, you can ask your questions throughout the presentation, and whatever platform you're on, just key in those questions, and we'll come to them during the Q&A in about probably 20 minutes time. Without any further ado, Jo, if you want to get all set up, ready to go, give me the thumbs up and it's all yours.
Okay, are we ready?
It looks like we are. Take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave. It's such a pleasure to be a part of the Ed Events community and to be presenting how to start a hard conversation. So as a Dare to Lead certified facilitator, my goal is to present some of my personal lived experiences with this content and the research from Brené Brown, and hopefully have you all come away with some connections or some new considerations that you might have in regards to how to start a hard conversation, because it's awkward, it's crunchy, and it doesn't really feel good. But afterwards, there's so much reward. If you do engage in this, you get more trust and hopefully more connection and a sense of belonging. So with that, this is based on, I've pulled from Brené Brown's research and the work that I do with the Brené Brown group, from the variety of books that she has written and her research from the last 40 years. But in particular, we're going to dig into some of the strategies within Dare to Lead that I have found the most effective. And so yeah, for me, you might find something different, but for me, I'm going to share with you those that I think, wow, I've been using these the most. So these are kind of those golden nuggets that I found in the past 4 years by applying this research. So the first thing, though, is to set the stage. And you might have heard the phrase before that Brené uses, which clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So I'll read this aloud to you and just get a sense of, like, this is where I have started with it. Because sometimes speaking the truth feels like we are being unkind, especially when sharing difficult information or feedback. But in reality, dancing around the truth is unkind. When we avoid stating the truth, when we are vague or ambiguous under the guise of being kind, it is often because we are trying to lessen the discomfort for ourselves, not for the other person. So if you have been the person like me, I've been raised in a culture to make sure that everything is smooth sailing. We don't talk about our emotions. We don't talk about when we're upset. And this is spinning it on its head a bit to say, well, actually, we can have more healthy relationships if we choose the discomfort and awkwardness of speaking our truth to another person when we feel frustrated, pissed off, upset, whatever that is. So I love this quote, and I wanted to share that with you. And so if you are like me, you've been in meetings, or you've been maybe on a road trip with a family member, or had some kind of disagreement with someone, maybe in your life, a friend, colleague, whoever that might be, and you're just like, wow, that did not go well. I'm not sure what I said. What did I do? What happened? There was eye rolling in the meeting. They walked out, they stormed off. I am just not sure what I did, but I need to check in with this person and to see, like, what is actually going on. Because at the end, hopefully, if we do have this conversation with someone else, we feel more connected, more love, and more joy in our lives because we spoke our truth. We're being authentic to ourselves, and we're not just hiding it and covering it up where it might manifest in our bodies in some way. And if you're like me, I have offloaded hurt to others when I have not spoken my truth or talked to someone when I'm frustrated or upset. So again, these feelings come up. They can be in the workspace. They can be with family and friends. Again, anytime we feel triggered by something, like, what went on? What what happened? What did I say? What do I do? We're quick to blame ourselves. Like, okay, what did I do to piss this person off? Maybe you're in a meeting and there's eye rolling or somebody's folding their arms. And you're like, what have I done as the facilitator of this group to deserve this kind of treatment? They all hate me. They don't like what I'm saying. This is the worst presentation ever. If you're like me, that's where my thought goes first. It's not about the other person. It's usually about me and what I've done, which true, not true, we're not sure until we check in with someone. So the first thing I do when I feel triggered is this 5-step process. I try to take a deep breath and pause. I try to think about what's the accuracy of what's going on. What truth do I need to find out? And then I can choose at that point to either circle back with this person or not. And then I can have that conversation, that doing part. So, and this is a 5-step process, 5-step process that I really like to use when I'm emotionally hooked in some regards. So again, I like to check myself before I wreck myself, because I can get myself into a whole lot of trouble. So the first thing I do is I check my feelings. If I feel triggered by something, I get curious about it. I'm like, okay, what's going on? You're starting to get upset, Jolene. What is going on for you? And then I name it. Oh, I'm feeling upset. Then the next step I'm doing is what is the reality of this? Could it be that this person rolled their eyes in the meeting because they were upset with something that I said and I offended them? Or could it be they were just checking their phone real quick and they got a message that was really irritating to them, so they rolled their eyes? It may not even be about me. So I need to say, okay, what data do I have that's going to show me the truth behind my feelings? Then the third step check-in is I need to decide, is this the right time to check in with the person? Do I need to do it right away? Or do I need to think about, okay, what's the best scenario that I need maybe, or the most comfortable place that I need to be with this other person so that we can have an honest, authentic, sincere, and kind and respectful conversation? So the first thing I think about when I check in with a person is, what are the conditions for success? What kind of environment do I need? And we'll get into that in just a moment. I'll explain that a little bit more. Along with, is there a readiness factor to it? Can I stay in rapport, which is huge? And then do I have some conversation leads or some sentence starters that I can use to really help me lead in to that conversation with the other person? So I also have this great little checklist for giving feedback that's from the Brene Brown team. She has 11 of them. I picked my favorite 4 for you. These are my go-tos. Because the first thing that I ask myself to check for readiness is, am I ready to sit next to you rather than across from you? Because sitting next to you means that we can talk about it in front of us, which is the next point. I'm ready to put whatever issue is in front of us, not between us. So you'll see this a lot in office spaces where people will have a nice sitting area where we can sit side by side and talk about whatever issue is there, as opposed to having like a hardcore desk in front of it. So these are 2 real quick ways that I check if I'm ready and do I have the environment that I need. The third one is, am I ready to own my own part in this? Like, what do I need to hold myself accountable for? And so listening to that other person is also huge, because am I ready to listen, ask questions, and accept that I may not fully understand, or that I may be in the wrong, or that I made up a completely confabulated story? So the first thing, again, is environment. So a lot of times, maybe with a friend or a family member, or maybe if you have a walking trail outside your office, taking a walk can be a really nice place to talk about whatever is between you and another person. I can't tell you the number of times I've been on a hike with a friend or family member, and we have solved literally not only our own problems, but the whole world's problems. So if you're like me and you like to go out in nature, there's just something about nature that brings out the calming sense of, okay, let's really talk about this. But if you don't have an opportunity for that, sometimes being in the car can be a great place to talk about whatever you need to, because if you've been on long road trips, you're isolated in the car, you might as well get it out in a space. So this can also be effective. And if not, maybe sitting in a way that's, there isn't a large desk between these two people, but you can see they're in rapport and they're really trying to hash out something. So again, leaning in, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, staying in rapport and leaning in with curiosity are two big ways that you can do that. So this is the rumble commitment that I like to also use when I'm thinking about having a hard conversation with someone. This comes from the Brene Brown group as well. It is a feedback tool. And what I love about it is the specificity. So there's two that I really hone in on when I need to have a hard conversation. The first one is I want to be thoughtful about my own body language and theirs, because we know when we're observing someone else, like, are we in rapport? Are we also listening with the same passion with which we want to be heard? So if things like get out of hand, you can actually lean in a little bit further to show that you are truly trying to listen to this other person. So really like those two. And then also part of rapport is intense active listening. This comes from one of my favorite books by Daniel Coyle. It is called The Culture Code. He gives these indicators on how to be an intense active listener. When you're leaning in, you nod sometimes. Maybe you're doing a little like, yeah, that, okay, you're in agreement. That's what I call those stubby sounds of agreement. I'm truly listening. I'm not letting my mind wander. There's no interruptions around. I pause and stay curious. So I love this list on the indicators of active listening. And I can use some of these skills to really help myself be aware and intentional about meeting with this other person. So here are some examples of that. You can see that these two people are talking about something important. There's obviously active, engaged listening happening. You can see that they're leaning in a bit to truly understand. Here's another example. Again, you'll notice the gestures. You'll notice the leaning in, and maybe your face as well will be a little bit more open and eyebrows up to say, okay, I'm really trying to listen to what you're having to say and also to understand it. The second thing I like to do is think now about, this is like the fourth one. This is those sentence starters that I really like. So this again comes from the Brene Brown work, which she uses them as rumble starters or rumble language. I personally like to customize these for myself. So I love the way they're listed out. The ones that I like the most are walk me through that, or I'm curious about, or I'm thinking, or I'm wondering. Again, as you think about how you like to start sentences, some of these may not work for you, but be thinking about how you can tweak them to match your own style of speaking. So again, what I want to reiterate here as well, though, is that any of these with a little bit of tone can be weaponized. So if I said, well, I'm curious about, or help me understand, like, you get a sense that that is not an open mind. It is very accusatory. So I'm always, always, always careful about the tone that I use when I'm speaking, especially on the lead-in, because I want to set the stage for having an open, curious, kind, and respectful conversation. So I wanted to share with you some of my favorite ways, or the ways, kind of my go-tos for starting a hard conversation. I always give a little bit more context. So I might start out, I was wondering, knock on the door of someone. I was wondering if I could talk to you about something that happened the other day. This happened in the meeting. It just seemed like I said something that upset you. Is that true? Not true? And then you find the person responds, yeah, it's true. Or no, it's not true. Another one I like to do is, the other day we were cleaning up. I actually use this with my mother, so that's kind of cool. And you said this, and I need to tell you how that felt for me. And I'm not saying this to hurt your feelings. This is just how it felt for me when you said that. So then afterwards, my mother and I, we had a much better understanding an awareness of what the things might be said in a certain way. The other ones I've been thinking a lot about, I was hoping we could chat about, or like saying, hey, how's it going? I wanted to check in with you because I noticed blah, blah, blah. So again, at the end, our goal is to be more connected, to have more love and joy in our lives. And if we don't talk about the things that frustrate us, upset us with other people, it's going to manifest in our bodies or in our habits in unhealthy ways. So again, every morning I try to think, am I going to choose courage over comfort today? Am I going to have integrity? Am I going to speak this truth to someone? Am I going to have this hard conversation, maybe with my mother or my son or a colleague? Because if I don't, I'm not practicing my values, even though it's awkward. So if you're interested in knowing more about this and taking a deeper dive, I would welcome you to take the full Dare to Lead training. It's robust. It's awesome. I can't tell you how it's not only changed the way I lead, but also the life I lead. So I would encourage you to think about that if you're interested. I also want to do a big shout out to this website called Unsplash. If you liked some of the images today, those are all courtesy of Unsplash. You always give credit at the bottom if you use one of those, but they're free and they're amazing. And additionally, if you want to contact me and ask questions, have gained some more information about what I'm talking about with the Dare to Lead concepts, please feel free to reach out to me at Jolene@cognitiveconsultancy.com. And so, yeah, that's what we have for today. So I'll send it back to you, Dave.
Well, thanks so much, Joe. And we do have a couple of questions before we wrap things up. A question from Cheryl. She actually asked, what do you do when the other person does not want to talk to you?
It's a really good question. So if you know there's still some tension, you might try an easy lead in, one of those starters that I showed you. And if that person is closed off, no, I don't want to talk to you about it. You could try another time to circle back when you feel like there's more a sense of calm. But if not, you've done the best you can. So you might just have to let it go.
We have a question as well from Karen P. What do you do if the conversation gets heated?
That's a very good one too. Usually we'll pause, say time out. Can we take a break? And then circle back when we're both not so emotionally charged in some way. But we do definitely want to agree to come back and check in. Because it sounds like we're both dug in on this right now. Let's pause and circle back maybe tomorrow when we've had a chance to sleep on it.
Very good. Now, that's today. That's what we've been talking about, how to start a hard conversation. And let's look ahead, though, Joe, because you've got coming up quite soon, Dare to Lead certified training, some online workshops. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so the online workshops I offer, usually I'll have some mapped out within a monthly time frame, a couple hours each session over the course for 24 hours. So, but I can also, if it's on the calendar, you're welcome to sign up for that. But if you would also like customized, I can customize it to meet your schedule. So if you don't see something that works for you, we can chat and make a schedule that works for you.
Very good. And just take note of that time. That's USA Mountain Time. And those dates, that is one continuous workshops. Excellent. And then coming up just after that, in person. Now, that's a good excuse to go to Las Vegas for those of you people who want an excuse to get away.
Absolutely. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So it's a great opportunity for you not to only come and learn, but to play. So if you're interested, that'll be June 1st and 2nd. In person, we'll develop a great cohort. I would love to see you there.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much, Joe. And of course, coming up through EduSpark, we have an online discussion. Tony Ryan, educational futurist, will be talking about AI-powered education, navigating the future. That's on day after Anzac Day for Aussies and Kiwis on April 26, 4 p.m. Singapore time. That would be 5 p.m. in Seoul and 6 p.m. in Sydney. So it's been a real pleasure, Joe. And just before we wrap up, I want to also give a little plug to the now semi-launched Ed Events community. And if people are interested in these sort of events, and even just keeping in touch with finding events, perhaps also solutions and jobs, all of those things you can find by just signing up on the Ed Events community, which is right there on the screen, ed.events. But nothing left to say other than thank you so much for your time today, Joe. It's been a real pleasure, and looking forward to some more of those sessions. And thanks again.
Likewise. Thanks, Dave. Take care.